Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakestake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on audio, thank you so much. Please download this episode, subscribe to the podcast, and download more episodes as well. I'm thrilled to welcome this duo here today. They are Spotify verified artists, and as of today, they have 4.29 thousand YouTube subscribers, 8,500 Facebook followers, and 12,200 Instagram followers. And they just released their amazing debut album, Us, which is now available. So please help me welcome Clare Bowen and Brandon Robert Young, aka Bowen and Young, to the podcast.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
Guys, I love the record. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it as well.
You're so welcome. So let's get started. So I want to ask both of you this. When you get interested in performing, and how did that passion evolve into desire to pursue a career in the entertainment and music industries?
All right.
You want to start?
Well, for me, I grew up in a small town in northern Connecticut, and I was a terrible athlete growing up. I was horrible at sports. I was always picked last for kickball and any other sporting event. But singing was something that my mom taught my sister and I when we were very young. She would sing to us at our bedside at night, and we would sing together as a family. And singing just always was something that was enjoyed in our home, and then became kind of just felt very natural. And so I think I just sort of fell into it because I was so terrible at the other things, and singing was fun, and I could, get up on stage, and I fell into like children's choir and plays and musicals in school. And I just really always enjoyed it. As a child and even as a teenager, I never had any aspirations of becoming a professional musician. I never even had a thought that I could write songs, or I could, play an instrument. Like you would see people on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. Well, those were like aliens from another planet. It wasn't something that a kid from my hometown ever would do. So, quite late in life, I, decided that I was going to try my hand at songwriting, and moved to Nashville, and just said, I'm going to give this a whirl. And if I'm terrible at it, it will be very evident very quickly. And so I just kept at it, kept writing songs, and I started playing shows, acoustic, around town. And that was, 24 years ago. Claire's story is a bit different, I would imagine.
Well, I just have to say, it's not because he's not good at anything else. And the athlete thing is hilarious, because I've seen this man chase a wolfhound that's just stolen half a pavlova and taken it off across the field. And he run like hell. It's amazing. And you have such a beautiful voice. He has an incredibly unique voice. And it's funny, like, it needed to find its place. And when you ended up with John Hyatt, like he toured with Hyatt for 10 years. It was the most beautiful compliment to everything else that was happening on that stage, including John's incredible songwriting. And I think that was an education that you couldn't possibly have paid for. It's really cool that you actually got paid to learn all that stuff with him. So it's because like you didn't just fall into it. You fell in, and then you kept being invited back because your voice is so beautiful. So Brandon's the first one to talk himself down. He's very humble, which is another one of his beautiful qualities. Sorry, I just had to.
No, you're
Can't help it. You're wonderful. For me, I did a lot of my growing up in a children's hospital. I am a pediatric cancer survivor, and music was kind of my window into the rest of the world, and also storytelling being something my family had always done. My family my mother's father was in an Irish barbershop quartet, and my grandmother was a coloratura soprano on my dad's side. So I suppose singing was in our family, but I could never have known that it was going to be something that kept me going on the really the hardest days in hospital, because it can be kind of a scary place, but my parents made it not scary with music and stories. So it became just the natural place to go when the real world was not treating me so good. because I was given like 2 weeks to live or something. Still kicking. And I suppose it felt good. I feel like maybe I'm still here because I'm meant to tell stories. I know I'm still here because I was meant to love you. But I don't know, making people feel better, putting more good in the world, and you can do so much of that with storytelling, is something that is really close to my heart and has always made me feel like, I don't know, like I could do something that meant something to people, I suppose. Yeah.
And you guys have been doing an incredible job with that. I got to say this. Robert, I am a bad athlete myself. I'm always the last person to finish in my CrossFit classes and fitness classes, so I understand. And
But you
I got to
do that.
say,
Amazing. You go to CrossFit. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you. I go at least 2 to 3 times a week, so I try my best. And then also, Claire, you are also been a huge inspiration, and especially a lot of people. And so many of my audience know that you wrecked from your time on Nashville as the amazing Scarlett O'Connor. So how did that experience help you grow, not just as an actress, but a musician and a performer?
Well, I got to work with some of the most talented people I've ever met. And my mother always said, surround yourself with people who are better than you, because that is what will help you grow. So getting to work with people like T-Bone Burnett, Callie Corey, Buddy Miller, Colin Linden, this guy, and just the Six Wire, they're an incredible band. Like, being surrounded by wonderful people really, really helped me. And I suppose it, in the biggest way, it taught me about the music industry and sort of introduced me into it for real, because that's how I met Brandon. I was doing my first big show at the first big solo show outside the TV show. Normally you would do that at the Bluebird or Third and Lindsay, like a more intimate venue, but I got told I was doing it at the Bridgestone Arena, which was terrifying, especially when you come from a town of like 750 people, and I think about 20,000 fit into that room, and it was sold out. Dude I was meant to sing with that night bailed because he got stage fright, and Brandon got called in at the very last minute and absolutely rocked it. We met 20 minutes before we walked on stage, and I had no idea who he was, but as soon as I met him, I knew that I wanted to know him, and I wanted to hear all his stories, and it was really weird. I was like, I want to be that guy's best friend immediately. So getting to tour with Brandon, you've actually taught me a great deal about what it is to be a musician, and like all the different dynamics that happen, because I came up in theater, so and films, so I didn't know. So it's been a multitude of things, but you're definitely one of the biggest that sort of taught me along the way.
Well, and that show Nashville was 2 shows in one, really. There was the sort of drama side, the storylines of the various characters and how they intersected. But then there was the music side, and the music side was albums and albums and albums worth of beautifully written, incredibly produced songs. And so you have this body of work that sits as a companion to what you were watching on screen. These characters are going through these various different things. And so, I think that has very much informed, what we do, and has been an incredible sort of jumping off point for Bowen Young to, go out to those fans that fell in love with Scarlett O'Connor and get to, share, ever evolving real life stories that, Claire and I are experiencing, or Charles Eston's experiencing, or Jonathan Jackson. We are all still very good friends with those castmates. And so, we still write songs together. We still play music and shows together. And so it's a really beautiful thing that has continued on after the final 6th season of Nashville. The music has continued to grow and evolve. And while we can go back and play songs from season 1, there's all of this new material that, that we've been able to put out as Bowen Young or any of the other cast.
Yeah.
That's amazing to hear that. And I think it'd be amazing as a television watcher and a music lover as well to see not only you guys reconnect with the cast, but so maybe a one night only, or maybe a revival of Nashville.
It was really wonderful on the Nashville reunion tour when we were standing in a sold out arena in Cardiff, and we asked the audience who has been to one of these shows before, because we've done those tours previously over the last few years. And it was about a quarter of the audience had been before. It was a lot of people in that room. And the others had discovered it during the pandemic or had been told about it by their friends after the show had finished filming. And the thing about it is the music has continued. Like it's not like a lot of shows end up in like this little box, and it's a time capsule that stays there and it only lives there. But because us as actors and songwriters were able to write the music of Nashville, like we have songs that people sang on the show. My brother wrote from here on out for Chip to sing. We've all had our hands in that sort of realm, and we continue to write as artists. It keeps going. So it's just this wild thing that has continued to evolve. It has kind of a life of its own. So I have no doubt that that there'll be more. Actually, we've been talking about what is to come for Nashville, and as a cast, we're all very good friends. They're like our brothers. So we can't stop. I can't tell you too much, but we can't stop.
I cannot wait to hear about it. Exciting. We may need to come back for another time when it comes. But however, we're here to talk about us. It's an amazing, one of my favorite albums of the year, of 2024 so far. And how long you're so welcome. And how long did it take you guys to say, okay, we got to put an album together, and it's from conception to release?
Maybe 3 years. And I think there was a time during the pandemic that we realized, and it was around the time that we wrote a song called Dangerous Love as well. We had a home invasion that happened, and Dangerous Love was written pretty much the day after it occurred, really. And that, combined with the pandemic and not being able to do anything that we've always done, was very much like, okay, if we want to do our dreams, we have to do them now. Especially when that person broke in here and tried to beat our bedroom door down. It was crazy. And we had always wanted to be Bowen Young. We were very grateful to have been solo artists for the longest time. But we've always toured together, and people were like, why aren't you guys a duo? And we were like, we don't know. It makes the most sense. It's what we wanted. But we had to stop waiting for other people to realize it was a good idea. So we decided, we're like, okay, want to do dreams? Let's do them now.
Yep.
And so we became Bowen Young. We started writing, and the very first song that we wrote for us is called Water to Wine, and that was with Sean McConnell over Zoom during the pandemic. And writing over Zoom is the funniest thing. It's like purgatory. There's always a leaf blower, like wherever you go around it, like they follow you. There's always landscaping or something, so you can't hear anything. But somehow we managed to finish this song, and we found the sound that we've been looking for a really long time, having this renewed this exuberance after our manager Susan Bank had said, do you guys want to be a duo? And we were like, yes, please, that's all we've ever wanted. And so that was the Water to Wine was the very beginning. And it was basically just realizing that there's no time, so you have to use it. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and I would say from the very beginning to when we actually ended up starting to record with Sean, we probably wrote 50 songs with the intention of, this being the group of songs we were going to, pick from for the album. And then as, we started sending those songs to Sean, and the three of us thinking and listening and talking through sort of what we wanted the album to look and feel and be shaped by, those songs became more and more evident of what the album needed to be. And so, to whittle it down from 50 to 10, is a process, and it takes time. And so all in, I would say it's probably 3 years from when we decided to be a duo to when, the album was finished and, out in the world.
Absolutely. I would love to talk to you about I want to reveal some of my favorite songs of my album, and also talk about some of the stories behind them. So we already talked about Water to Wine. I love Hair of the Dog.
Thank you. That was a fun one. It was sort of one of those 11th hour songs, because we were slated to start recording on Monday morning with Sean McConnell. And the way that Sean likes to record is sort of full immersion. He's got a studio that is a house, and the entire first floor, besides the kitchen, the entire first floor is set up as a studio. It's all wired and mic'd and ready to go. And so, but upstairs, there are a couple bedrooms that when you record with him, you basically move into the studio and you stay there for the duration. And you can bring your pets. So we brought our 200-pound wolfhound and the cat and the flying squirrels and the whole thing. And and so it was the Sunday before we were starting to record on Monday morning, and we decided, let's go out there and get set up, bring the animals, everybody can kind of get acclimated. And Sean just came over to the studio and checked in to see how we were doing, and we just sort of started picking around on the guitar, and Hair of the Dog came out. Yeah. And it came out on that Sunday afternoon, and we started recording Monday morning. And it was one of those ones that it just sort of stood up, raised its hand, and said, "I will not be ignored." Yeah. And it was just such a fun song to record.
It's crazy when you think about the inception of it. And then like we said, we just got back from London. We opened with it at Royal Albert Hall during our set at Highways Festival last weekend. I think it was
Friday.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know what day it is, but to when you see like the birth of a song sitting at the little piano in Sean's studio, to standing in front of a packed Royal Albert Hall audience, and it's like, oh, this is why we do it. It's just such a wonderful feeling. And I don't know, it was wild, and we love that song too. Thank you for being so lovely about it.
You're so welcome. I gotta say, it must be amazing seeing Hair of the Dog fill the Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah,
it's
really
wild.
Is.
I mean, it's absolutely wild to think about, sitting in a room with our buddy Sean, write the song, and then, like you said, filling those hallways, at Royal Albert Hall was just,
it was wild,
nuts.
And being able to say to people like, "Bless you,"
excuse me,
we usually start that song with like, "Who here's got a hangover?" And it's so funny, like how many people kind of. Then we explain to them like, this is not just about. It's not just about having like a hangover because you went out last night and did whatever you did. It's also, a hangover can be something that someone said the day before that made you feel like your dream is not your own anymore, or made you feel not good enough, and everyone's been there. So it's actually about picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and remembering that you are good enough and that you can do it, and silencing that voice in your head that is telling you that you can't. So it's not just about booze. We really always want to put more good in the world, whatever we do with our music. And make people feel like if you don't feel like you belong anywhere else, you belong right here with us in this moment. And that is probably the best feeling for us, like when we get to do that in a beautiful place like Royal Albert Hall. So cool.
Absolutely. I gotta say, God Forbidden it's probably one of the more serious tracks on the album.
Yeah, that was one we wrote with Sean.
Can't remember when it was.
It was when we made the record, we made it in 2 chunks of time. So that was in the second chunk of time, where we moved into the studio for a week. And God Forbidden was, I don't know, one of the first or second songs that we wrote in that period of time. And we wrote it in the morning and recorded it in the afternoon. It was like, we pretty much knew straight away that it was a song that was going to make the album. And it was the only song on the record that we wrote on piano. And because most of the time, I'm a guitar player, so we usually start there with an acoustic guitar. But that was the only one that we wrote with piano, and it just felt right to keep it on the piano. And it was a lot of fun.
We wanted to write something that was about the darker part of falling in love. And I mean, when we met, we tried very hard not to fall in love, because we'd been treated terribly by other people. And so it was just like we both had separately decided to be just single for the rest of our lives. But the magnet that pulled us together was something that I don't know. It really was like a magnet that was like, you need to be near him. It was really wild. I don't know. It was
worked out.
It did.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's amazing that was the old piano-based song. And like, it's so rare for because especially if you're a guitar-based artistry, and then all of a sudden you have a hit that's piano based. It's very interesting.
Yeah. It feels, while the bulk of the album is started on a guitar, it just felt like the right moment to include that story and that sound and that feeling on the album. So
I gotta say this. Your cover of Beyonce's Halo was fabulous. One of the best covers I've heard this year. I gotta say this, Brandon. Oh my God, that is you. Your falsetto is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you're very, very kind, and I truly appreciate you saying so. It was, that cover came about because a few years back, Claire said, it was at some point during the pandemic when we were all stuck at home. Claire said, have you ever thought about, trying to, do a version of Halo? And I said, no, it's never even occurred to me. And she said, I think you should. And, if I'm honest, I was a little intimidated because it's, an impeccably written, gorgeous song, but it's sung by one of the greatest voices in human history, ever. Beyonce there's no one better than Beyonce. And so it was, I sort of just had it in the back of my mind, but I sort of set it aside. And then at some point, over the pandemic, the way I sort of made it through was I wrote songs almost every day. I just go in the music room, close the door, and just work on music. And, one of those days I picked up the guitar and started fiddling through the changes and singing, little parts of Halo. And I was like, wow, this feels kind of good, And so I took it to Claire and she said, yeah, I think that's really cool. We should send it to Sean. And so we did a little work tape on our iPhone and just a voice memo and sent it to Sean. And he came back and said, yeah, I think we should record that on the record. It should be a part of it. And, it's a testament to Claire. She's got great ideas. And, even though it took me a while to get around to doing it, I
That's all right.
got around to do it. And it felt really good. It was a great idea, baby, and I'm glad we got to do it.
Well, it's just part of your humility, and I love that about you. I did think it was funny when we kind of arranged it together, but Brandon came up with the initial arrangement of it, and I was like, give me a second. Sat down and fiddled with it a bit, and I was writing, sort of like writing the arrangement out, and I'm like, how high can you sing? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, you do these 4, and he did that beautiful run that you do. And I was like, okay, yeah, do another 4. And he did it. I was like, oh, there it is. It's good.
I got to say, that run is near Adams Lambert, Jordan Smith era territory.
Oh, you're very, very kind. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy it. We sure enjoy singing it. We got to do it at Royal Albert Hall this past weekend, and it felt really good.
Dang near blew the roof off.
Absolutely, and I'm glad to hear that because I think the audience went wild when they heard that version.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun. It's a good one to be able to just do just the two of us and an acoustic guitar. You don't need a band, and it's a lot of fun.
Alrighty, I gotta talk to you about World Brand New. As of this recording, has over 43,000 streams on Spotify, and I was rocking and jamming out to before you guys came on our call. So I would love to learn the story about that song. It's one of my favorites.
We wrote that with Mickey Echo. It was sort of an accidental discovery. Originally, I think it was a little slower, and then we realized that it just had more.
Well, it was sort of the second song of the day because we had been in the studio.
Right. It was an accidental one.
Working with Mickey on another song, and so we had written a song that day, and then we were all just sort of sitting around in the evening, and we were having a drink, and he sort of started humming something. And we were like, keep going. That sounds really cool. And he sort of was humming what would become the chorus melody.
Yeah.
And I recorded it on my iPhone. And it was one of those things where we didn't really have much to it, just sort of this hummed melody. And we were looking to, round out the album. And we got back together with him and we were like, man, I think there's something in this melody. So let's chase it down. So we got together with him at a studio here in Nashville, wrote the song, and then took it to Sean, and Sean produced it. And it just, we sort of wanted it to, it almost feels like a tent revival in some ways, it's
he had to tell me what that was.
Up tempo kind of, stomp clap sort of thing that it just felt right. And we've had such a good time playing it.
We wanted to write something that was about all different kinds of love. The record is full of love songs, romantic love songs. But we wanted something that was like, who is your world brand new? Think about your world brand new. And that's a different person. That's a different, like, for some people, it might be like their dog might be their best friend. That's okay. Like, it might change. It's just, we wanted something that was really for everyone. We had this lovely video that we put together from clips of our friends just loving on each other. It was like, our mates down the street playing with their little boy, and our friends, like Laurie and Jenny and John and Gary and mum and dad, your mum and dad. Like, it was just happiness. We wanted to put happiness in a song. That's what we did, and it was cool. My dad is the one whistling with me at the front of the track. So Dad's
that's awesome.
But it was cool.
Yeah, he's a great whistler. We have to feature him.
Yep.
So
amazing. I want, before we finish out talking about songs, I know this song was not on the album, but I would love to say I love Helpless. It's your most streamed song on Spotify so far. As of this recording, has 73,000 Spotify streams.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That was a song that we were in Australia. We were living in a hotel in Melbourne.
That's right.
And Claire was filming a television series. And so while she would be on set, 12 hours a day, I spent a lot of time in the hotel room, sipping coffee and writing songs. And so that was one of the songs that I wrote in that hotel room. There was a sort of a windowsill that was big enough that you could sit on, and I could look down to the city streets of Melbourne. And I wrote that song, and then I played it for Claire, and she really, it resonated with her. So when we got back to Nashville, we got together with our friend Doug Lancio, who is, when I was on tour with John Hyatt, he was John Hyatt's lead guitar player. And now Doug actually plays guitar for Bob Dylan. And
oh, wow.
So we got together with Doug, and he produced a handful of tracks on us, and Helpless was one of them. And we were just really, really excited with the way it turned out. So it was one of the very first songs that Claire and I put out, together as Bowen Young. And so it's good. That song's been hanging around, and
it's funny. It was part of a group of songs that we wrote, and Brandon wrote Helpless on his own. I just sang bits of it. But it was part of the writing session that was going to be my second record as a solo artist. And I was very grateful that I got to be a solo artist, but I didn't want to be that anymore. I always wanted to stand next to him and sing, and it felt so weird that he was always like, I was center stage and Brandon was always just sort of just off to the side a little bit, and it felt so wrong to me for the longest time. And so that's when we kind of had to put our foot down and be like, no, this is what we're doing. Thank goodness. But Helpless was actually written, I'd totally forgotten, in the time where we were looking at writing the second solo Clare Bowen record, and you were going to make one as well. And it informed itself. We were both like, this is ridiculous. It was just like the very first song that we wrote, Oh Hello, which is not out. We need to release that at some point. But I remember calling you right after, all those years ago, and saying, this is not a solo song. This needs to be a duet, and I only want to sing it with you. Helpless is very much the same.
Awesome. I gotta say this. Have you guys thought of your dream collaborators, your singers, the songwriters, producers, and musicians, and how would they enhance Bowen Young's sound?
There's a lot of people out there that I would love to, for Claire and I to go in the studio with to write and or record. From a writing perspective, it would seem obvious that Paul McCartney would be at the top of everyone's list, but he is absolutely at the top of my list.
Yeah.
Springsteen would be amazing. I would love to go in the studio and record with Daniel Lanois.
Yeah. Dolly. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's so many.
I have a couple of people's suggestions as well. I would love to hear you with Dan and Shay.
Oh,
I love them.
Yeah, we've met them because they live in Nashville, but we've never had the opportunity to work with them, and it would be incredible. So if you know them, let them know.
I wish they need to. First of all, they need to get to the podcast. But I was at their concert in April when they brought the Heartbreak on the Map tour to Kansas City, and I love this show. And I gotta say, you guys would be perfect, and also a Little Big Town.
I love that.
Yes, we are big fans of Little Big Town. Yeah. They are sweet people.
They're so kind.
The very first week I lived in Nashville, I was looking for a job, and I was downtown, and I was walking through a bunch of different shops looking for work, and I walked into this furniture shop down on 2nd Avenue, and there were a few people in there, and I just sort of said I was looking for a job. And they said, well, we have a couple shipping containers coming in the next few days. We need some help unloading these shipping containers if you would like to do that. And I said, okay. They told me when to show up, so I did. And there were two guys. It was myself and one other guy that were going to empty this shipping container of furniture. And it was Philip from Little Big Town.
Oh, wow.
It was, I think, right at the beginning when they were getting together as Little Big Town and doing those initial recordings. And so it was Philip and I sweating in the Nashville hot summer and carrying furniture into this furniture store. And that was, back in 2000.
Yeah.
So
that's an amazing story. And seriously, I hope that you had the opportunity to reconnect with them, because I would love to hear you, like, seriously, Girl Crush or Better. You got the 6-part harmonies. I can imagine you guys on those 2 songs would be amazing.
It would be a lot of fun. We do see Philip from time to time, and we see everybody from time to time.
So
backstage at different events, but. It's funny to see Philip at like a Nashville Predators game or something, and
And those two are always like, hey.
Yeah, sort of remembering that 20 some years ago we were sweating unloading furniture off a shipping container.
Yeah, they're just they're always people who, when you're backstage or you're on a red carpet or something, they're always the ones that come up and are the first ones to give us a hug. They're just such lovely people.
Sweet people.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Seriously, I would love to see you guys go on tour together. That'd be wonderful.
That would be so cool.
We'll work on it.
All righty. So one of the last questions I have is, how have you been able to connect with your fans on social media? Is there a favorite platform that you guys use?
Oh, probably Instagram, I think, just because it's really visual. I find that social media is a tough one. I think it's a really useful tool, but it's not for fun. We prefer to interact with our fans at our shows, or in meet and greets. We love seeing people in person, because social media can be this, as helpful as it can be. It can also, all of the scary, stalky, nasty, trolly creatures that I've really ever come across have come from social media, who've manifested as dangerous or not very nice people in real life. So it's this weird thing where we don't spend a whole lot of time on it, and it's because we really enjoy interacting with our fans at our shows so much, and we really want to keep that special. We also want to keep fans informed and make sure that everyone knows what's going on. So it is a very important thing. I just know that it's not something that I have ever done for fun. It's always been kind of it's a whole other job. That's why you employ somebody to do it for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We okay all of our content, but most of the time we let other people do it, and we'll go in and interact with the fans and say hello and answer little questions and comments. Actually, we need to do that today. We're going to answer people's questions. So I love it. When it's good, it's lovely. When it's not good, it's terrifying.
I understand completely. So
Instagram.
Last question. Are you ready?
Oh yeah.
Go on.
All righty. where can they find us? Where can they find your music? And also, where can they find you on social? And also, if you guys are going to go on tour soon, where can they find that information?
Well, you can find us pretty much everything on social media is Bowen Young Official. You can find our music anywhere you get your music. You can go to bowenyoung.com and you can order physical copies as well. And there's going to be more of those coming soon in different versions. It's pretty much, Bowen Young Official, bowenyoung.com. Just look us up anywhere you can find your music.
Yeah, anywhere you stream your music or anywhere however you consume music, you can find us there.
There's also a contact form on the Bowen Young website, but Instagram's definitely like our main thing. So if you click the little link tree there in our bio, you can find absolutely everything in all of our shows that are coming up, which we're about to announce some really, really cool stuff. We had some little delays because I'm about to film another movie. But we're about to be able to tell everybody soon.
Yep. So we're working on some rescheduled shows for a tour in the UK, and then some shows here in the States, and just keep coming back, checking it out. Bowen Young Official. We look forward to seeing you out at a show.
Awesome. So guys, how have you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast? Those are our channels on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Podchaser, Spotify, and Spreaker. Jacob Elyachar, JACOB Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOB And guys, want to find out who won The Masked Singer? What's going on in America's Got Talent? And also my take on Bowen Young's Us. Visit jakes-chick.com. The blog is it all. Once again, jakes-chick.com. Claire, Robert, it was a pleasure to talk with you. And I got to say this. If you're ever in Kansas City, I would love to see you guys live.
Ooh. Absolutely. Well, we will be there.
Yep.
We'll let you know when we're on our way. And make sure you come backstage and say hi.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me. I really appreciate it. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a good one, everybody. Goodbye.